All right, thank you so much for staying with us. Like I mentioned earlier on, we're talking about the African Continental Free Trade Area and the general business environment in the country in terms of COVID-19 and the taxes that are coming in and how Kenya can take advantage, and also whether trading as a global continent will work better for Kenya as well. All right, let me introduce my guest real quick, beginning from my right. Mr. Mushai Kunyia is here, Kenya Association of Manufacturers Chairperson. Thank you so much for making time. On my left is Jen Dungo, External Affairs MRM. Thank you for making time. And Samuel Garanja, CEO, MSME Alliance. Thank you so much for making time as well.
Thank you.
Mushai, I'll start with you. So how are we going to benefit from AFTA? That is how people abbreviate it, the African Free Continental Trade Area.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me here, Trevor. The free trade area, I think, and everybody understands today that the way you grow your economy is producing things and exchanging them, whether you exchange them within your economy or outside your borders of your country or your community. And that's how we kind of grow our economy. Yeah. Now, if we have an agreement which broadens who we can share with, who we can trade with, that helps our overall economy to grow. Yeah. If we look at Africa today, one of the challenges is that I think it's under 10% of our trade is within Africa. Yeah. So we tend to trade with countries outside, whether we're exporting copper, oil, diamonds, coffee, tea. We're exporting to other countries and importing from other countries. But we have our neighbors right here with us. What can we do and trade with them? Yeah. It's a market of, I think it's over $3 trillion. And if we can trade with each other, we can then help keep that money, so to speak, within Africa and exchange with each other. So it's a big opportunity for us if we can reduce the difficulty. And I think later we'll be talking about what are the many hurdles we have to trade with each other across Africa. So if we can reduce those and start trading more internally, it will be very useful for us.
Okay. Karanja, what do you see as the opportunity for MSME in terms of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area?
Yes. As Moshe is saying, it's true. We are moving from a consumer-based economy to production. And I think it's very important even for small, medium entrepreneurs to be able also to migrate with the times and seasons which are happening right now. Yeah. Because of COVID, it has opened our eyes that we cannot be importing everything from China and from other countries. We have to produce our own. And that one gives us an opportunity also to be able to broaden, the market. And it's a huge opportunity because you see it's an inter-country, it's an inter-border, a cross-border kind of approach towards that. And it broadens the market. You find that right now 55 countries have signed. I think 32 have ratified. That means that's a huge market. It means that when you produce goods here, you can be able to take them to Nigeria, with 200 plus in terms of population. So you are looking at a market base which is huge and the appetite is huge. Now the challenge will be, and I think you're going to tackle that later, is the cost of production and also the quality controls of the goods which we are going to be able to produce. But it's a huge opportunity.
Yeah. And let me come to you, Madam Dungo. For women in manufacturing, it's an agenda right now that is being run. What do you see as the opportunities in AFTA?
One opportunity is for the women who are already producing locally here in Kenya and have perfected the skills over time. And by perfection, I mean they have learned to comply with the national standards set by KEPS and other government authorities. They've also learned to tender for government tenders. They have learned to do trade within the bloc that we are used to, that is the East African Common Market. That means that having built that capacity, they will be ready to start looking out of East Africa and seeing where else their products can be marketable. One thing that is good for most of the products produced within Africa is that the market is more or less very similar. So if I'm able to produce well in this market and attract customers, then I stand a higher chance to go to other markets, especially where they have low industrial development, low production vis-a-vis consumption. We have a higher chance to take our products there and still manage to take a pie of that market.
Okay. Yeah. Mushai, let's get into the difficulties that you're talking about? Because if we're only trading with 10% within ourselves,
Yes.
what are the obstacles that's stopping us from doing this? And what are the chances? Because you mentioned producing and exchanging is the ultimate way of doing it. But there are some people who might be producing the same product, some even at a higher price, others at a lower price. How then do you become competitive? What are some of the biggest challenges that we first need to iron out before we start this?
There are many challenges. And I think before getting into them is to say that, look, it's a long journey. So I think one of the other things about the free trade area is we don't think it's something that's going to happen tomorrow. There is quite a journey to be taken before we can resolve these issues.
Yeah.
And so the issues I'm naming, they are not unresolvable. They will just take time to resolve. And the good thing about signing the agreement is that at least at a political level, we are beginning to agree that we will resolve these issues, and we are getting commitment to those. They start from things like transport.
Yeah.
If I want to take even a bag of onions to Congo, how will I get it there? Worse still, if I think about a product trying to get it to West Africa, even Chad and Central Africa Republic is not that far theoretically, but taking anything there is so the infrastructure, road, rail, etc. of moving goods is really going to be difficult. Then we get into really, and I think this is what will be even harder to resolve, is there really technical details on things like quality, things like standards, things like export procedures and what we do in borders. We've been working on them. Kenya has an experience with the East African community. And we've been working on these for now, what is it? We're going 20, 30 years that we've been working on it. And there's still work to be done around that. So for instance, we have now the joint border, single border points that we have in Namanga and some of the other borders, which they really help trade move forward. But we still have issues like standards. If I give you an example, recent one we've been dealing with is like toilet paper. And it's, you know, it's very basic things like toilet paper. In Kenya, we're allowed to pack bulk toilet paper. You know, you can buy 6 rolls in one big package. And you don't have to pack the ones internally. When you go to Uganda, they don't allow that. Every single roll must be wrapped individually, on its own. So it's kind of a barrier we are trying to discuss with them. Now, if you think about the thousands of products we have about 5,000 tariff lines. We are going to have to come to some sort of agreement on how these standards and those things are put together. So those are some of the things we need to go. Of course, like we've also mentioned, only 37 countries have even signed up to the free trade area. They need to ratify. Then we get to even more technical things like, we call them rules of origin and the tariff codes that we'd like to exchange with each other, because they are very, very different across Africa. So those are challenges that are going to take some while to resolve. But the key thing is that we start, because now we can start having a conversation around them and say maybe we can bring these together into something workable.
It is the standardization that I'm stuck on, because even right now, even the process itself is already has a bit of red tape, you would think. Because now 54 countries have signed up out of 55, 37 have ratified. Why is it just not enough to sign up and start? Why is it that we have this first the signing and then there's the ratification? And that is where now the difference comes in.
The different, yes. Because you sign up and say, I want to participate in this, and I'm going to start engaging. And then, you know, at some level you ratify. But then, again, like I said, you just said, I'm starting. So you then now have to bring in your tariff codes. And you say, these are the tariff codes I would like for the different products so that we can have a common external tariff or a common one. How are we going to exchange goods? What are sensitive goods? Because that's another very key area where people say, these goods are very important for my country. I don't want to just open freely. So, but if we look at the most successful trade areas, like the European Union, we also have to know they did not start yesterday to reach where they got to. So even them, they have gone through this process. It just takes a lot of time. The important thing for us is to start and not stop, and keep working at it to get there. Of course, the other thing that we know is that, like you're asking, where countries are also different in their political development and their political outlook. So we have controlled economies or semi-controlled economies, like say Ethiopia or Eritrea. And then you have free economies like Kenya. you have exchange rate controls in South Africa. All these things are going to have to kind of start merging together before we can actually have a really free trade area.
So this is a tricky one because there's trying to balance between fair competition and leveraging on a country's strengths. Is it time that we now have discussions and agree that South Africa, you guys are better at this, so you do it. Kenya is better at this, do it. Rather than having Kenya and South Africa producing the same stuff that then face quality challenges on the other side and almost like unfair competition, so to speak.
Yes, and I think that is one of the hard things we have is what is fair competition and what is unfair competition. So if, again, I bring you to our Kenyan local situation, just last week the president instructed the ministry to allow maize from Tanzania. For instance.
After they had said that it has a bit more aflatoxin.
Aflatoxin
so
and
all of a sudden the aflatoxin is okay.
But we know in Kenya, for instance, maize is cheaper in Uganda and Tanzania. And if you go to Uganda and Tanzanian farmers, they are not complaining about the price. But our farmers are complaining about that price. So those kind of issues, and then of course it becomes a political issue because we have farmers here, they are planting maize, they've invested in that, what are we going to do? So we do need to grow in those conversations and start saying, maybe we should be getting, if we get the maize from Uganda, it's okay. We shouldn't say it's unfair because they're happy with their price they have given to us. Where the danger comes in is if, and it happens in other countries, we're having this issue in COMESA, a country, say, imports wheat from Russia or somewhere else, makes something and then brings it into Kenya. Then we start saying, okay, your wheat price is a bit lower than what we would be able to get here. So the fairness, and this is where now the technical thing becomes quite detailed. You have to spend a lot on different products and different supply chains to understand how they work. But yes, we have to understand who is doing better, who is in a better position to start, and then we allow them to go and say, you do that, we are going to do something else and focus on that.
Okay. Ndungu, do you think that is our biggest issue? Standardization, because you mentioned also the issue of complying with standards. But when those standards are different in different places, doesn't that then put you in a very precarious position, like for M&M, for example? Then you would have to develop different products for different markets, which then raises your cost of production.
Sure, that is a factor of concern when you're starting when you're in business, not even when you're starting a business, because then, like you said, you cannot have standards that comply for the Kenyan market, then Ugandan market, like that. For example, in the case of Kenya, we try so much to start a national standard, for example, for our roofing sheet. Then with time, we make the standard broader to accommodate the East African market community, so that as that product, as that roofing sheet comes from MRM and goes to the neighboring markets, then it's compliant to an East African standard. So our wish is that, like Mr. Mshai says, this is not a journey that will start today and be successful tomorrow. Our wish is that as we go to other regions where we don't have regional standards, we'll work towards creating regional standards. For example, in the EU, you might have a standard that cuts across all the EU member states. So you don't need to worry about moving from one member state to another member state. And that's one area where we could unlock a lot of potential if my roofing sheets can go from Kenya all the way to Nigeria and comply to one African standard. But that is a journey. It's not going to be easy, because even as we speak today, not only technical standards, even simple standards like carrying products from Kenya to, let's say, Tanzanian border, will weigh the products on the Kenyan side, register the axle load, but the moment it crosses the border, it will be weighed again and it will turn out to be different. So you find those are issues we are experiencing within what now we can say our smaller economic bloc. What if we start moving out and accommodating Central Africa, West Africa, North Africa, will just multiply the challenges. But the beauty is that all these challenges have been sort of envisioned. Why? Because we are all coming from existing trading blocks. We have seen the challenges that we are already experiencing, and we are cognizant of the fact that similar challenges will be experienced even with a wider market opportunity. and measures can start being put in place early rather than later when we are already facing the blocks.
Yeah. It sounds to me like there's so many challenges there, because like the example that you've just given, if an axle load on one side is either higher and lower than the other one, how much of corruption just simply plays a role in there? Because if it's 3 kgs, it's supposed to be 3 kgs, why would it change?
And unfortunately, that's the face of trade.
Yeah.
Trade is by human beings. And human beings can choose to make trade easy, or they can choose to make trade difficult.
Yeah.
So we hope, like Mr. Muchai says, there's already political goodwill to make this bigger market work. So the goodwill should trickle down to the authorities, and authorities, I mean revenue authorities, standard bodies, the road administration authorities, so that this goodwill can end up benefiting the manufacturer or the business person who wants to take advantage of the market. At the same time, and as being members of KM, we prescribe to a certain standard of business. So we hope, as much as we are Kenyans doing business in our way which we perceive as high standard, our counterparts in other regions will also be aspiring to do business in a very open way.
But then there's also the issue of opening up yourselves for more unfair competition, so to speak, because when your iron sheets are out there and then somebody decides in Nigeria that they want to do exactly the same thing that you're doing, or just slightly modify your version, doesn't that then make it even worse for you, because then you can't compete in the entire continent?
In fact, that is already happening even in the domestic market, because we are not a closed economy. We have products coming from the Asian markets. We have products coming from outside the East African community. So it is up to us as manufacturers, first, to stand behind our quality. Secondly, to create awareness of what our quality entails. And thirdly, to make sure that what we promise is what we deliver. Because as we open our African continent, we are also opening ourselves to a lot more competition. Because definitely, if there's somebody else producing a better product outside of EAC, it is up to me then to up my game, for me to retain my share and also to go back and eat part of their market share. So competition is good. It's good for the consumer, because it means everybody is trying to work a little bit harder to make their products much better. And it's also good for the businesses, because it means we will be confident to invest more in better technology and better services down the line.
Karanja, speak to me about the Mama Mboga perspective. You know, we are speaking about competition and all standardization. How does the Mama Mboga take advantage of this? It seems like a giant that she may not be able to compete in, unless then now they come together as a team rather than individually. What is your perspective from the MSME Alliance angle?
Yes, actually you can be able to go as an individual. This is a huge market that requires a lot of collective synergy, collective force. And I think we are doing that, and also Kenya Association of Manufacturers are doing that. We are harmonizing this small sector, making sure that you do quality control from the shambas, from where they are producing their produces, their products. Then from there you're going to have, it's important for us to have a body like MSME Alliance of Kenya, which now again comes in to bring quality control, because foodstuff coming from one border through another border to another border, or even using air to go to other countries is very, very much important, so that you can have that standardization, use of chemicals and all that stuff. So it's important for us to harmonize that. Now, the issue that you're going to have is dissemination of that information, breaking it down to consumable information that Mama Mboga can be able to adopt to. And I think now it calls for us as an alliance and other organized groups to go even back now again to give a lot of information towards that, and show them the importance of, you know, now coming from selling your produce in Marikiti and Gikomba, and now taking it to Uganda, Kampala, taking it to Lagos, taking it to South Africa, Joburg, and opening their mind. But also the other challenge they're going to have is also finances. Because you find like even some of the produces that come in Nairobi, they are from very small peasant, very, very, very small chambers. We don't now have that large scale kind of approach towards that. Yeah. And so I think the most important thing is to bring them together and also match them with also bigger companies or bigger farmers, so that they can be able even to have a local market. They can sell to the bigger farmers who have capacity even to reach to those markets. But it's capacity building. It goes step by step. You build the capacity of the smaller mama mboga to sell to the bigger manufacturer, or no, so the bigger producer, who can be able now to access to that market, and also give them better, better prices. So that challenge is going to be there, but we are up to it to make sure that information is disseminated down there. Yeah.
That is actually where my concern is, because even as it stands right now, they are the ones, the MSMEs are the ones that actually run the economy, but somehow they seem to have been almost neglected, so to speak. What is the strategy to ensure that they come together and form a formidable force as they are right now?
Initially, let me say this, it's good to accept that initially we were not organized as small medium entrepreneurs, and what was happening is that we could open very small associations which did not make any impact. Let me give an example with Kenya Association of Manufacturers of KEPSA. KM, I think, is about 65 years old. So when you look at that age, it means that they have come to maturity and they have weathered a lot of challenges. So we decided as MSME Alliance of Kenya, why don't we now, these small associations, because people form association based on their vision, based on where they want to go, based on their craft, why don't we become an umbrella body, whereby you're not collapsing what you started, but what you're doing is that you're giving you a covering, so that when you're doing the negotiations with the government or any other government agencies or even other international associations or international entities, we can be able to, your voice can be heard from that platform. Because it's difficult for a small entity of about 2,000 or 5,000 people to be heard internationally if they are not well structured. And so the alliance decided, like, once we have this umbrella now, we are well organized, we can be on the negotiating table with the government, and the government can hear us and come up with strategies and challenges of each and every sector. Because we have sectors, different sectors with different challenges. And let me give an example. We have just small manufacturers, people who manufacture. We have started manufacturing bulbs. We have started manufacturing even mabatis. We have started manufacturing what do you call, nails. Small manufacturers who are trying, to become a little bit bigger and capacity building. So with that now, once we mold them as an alliance and we are able to negotiate now, from there now the KM can also come in, because I think it's a synergy that's supposed to be there. Come in and now also build capacity, because MRM is here, but there's a person who is doing mabati in rural, maybe like a small plant. They shouldn't be crushed. Actually, they should be encouraged, because their market are different, probably maybe the quality. So you may find that MRM may be able to reach the global quality, but these people can be able to reach the local quality, which the common mwananchi can be able to afford for now, as also build that capacity. And so with that now, we are going to be able to achieve that capacity and also be able to be competitive.
Musha, and that's an interesting perspective that Karanja is bringing in, because there's also that global standards, and then there's what we can afford, and then there's the issue of financing. How then do we bridge the gap for everyone to be able to compete fairly, so to speak, especially when it comes to financing? Because the MSMEs will face very different challenges from guys under your umbrella body.
That's true. It's a challenging area for, I think, and globally, you find most governments in the world are really working hard to grow their SME sector, because they also understand innovation comes from there as well, because you find actually in the smaller businesses there's a lot more innovation. On the quality side and the cost side, it's important for an MSM, even when you're starting, you still have to know those are the key issues. Because what tends to happen is if we can make a good example that happens is like tailoring. So the benefit of a tailor who is making just your suit is he will measure it exactly to fit you. And so when it fits you, it fits better. And so maybe you can get a premium out of that. Or, there's a service there. He knows you. You can call him and that kind of thing. But if you go into a shop where they are making, or like our EPZ manufacturers are making, they just make us a standard shirt to a certain size, and either it fits you well or
it doesn't.
Or it doesn't. you just pima. So there are some benefits that smaller businesses have that they can work. But if he still makes you a shirt that does not last or a jacket that would not last, you will not go back. You know, you will not keep going back. So quality is always an issue. Maybe the standards, the regulation, etc. will be an issue. In fact, the bigger issue that you find with MSMEs, what their bigger challenge is capacity. Because if I have a project of, say I have a housing project of 1,000 units, whoever is making the mabati in the small scale may not be able to do it as well as MRM. Because MRM, I can go and I'll get the mabatis in a day or a week. Everything will be sorted. But in a smaller manufacturing side, it could be about capacity. On finance, I think that is an enduring problem everywhere. And we are looking at how we can develop better financing for MSMEs. There was a move after COVID to try and get a guarantee scheme, and government had started working on that. I'm not sure it is totally finished yet, but it's how do we guarantee, just help banks to lend to small manufacturers by giving them a guarantee. And it's not small, just manufacturers, but small businesses, so that they can start off their businesses and grow. And by the way, even in large manufacturing, it's not like finance is that easy always, because so we're always looking for better, cheaper finance, and more importantly, and I think it's the same with the small one, is longer term finance, because it's very easy to get an OD or to get a Fuliza or whatever for a short term. But when you're building a factory, you need 5-8 years to pay back. So getting longer term loans tends to be the biggest issue in finance.
All right. On that note, we're taking a quick break here. We'll be back in just a bit. We're talking about the intra-Africa trade and the free trade area and the challenges that we still have to go through before that becomes almost like the truth. We'll see you in just a bit. Send in your views at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya, #Daybreak. We're back in just a moment.